Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a retro review of Tarzan in the Land That Time Forgot. So, this is by the legendary Russ Manning. And so, this is definitely an older comic. This is from the 70s, and I've got this as a hardcover book. And I don't know how many different formats that it has been produced in, but this is a really, really gorgeous one because you get this really big version of the art. These pages are large, and so you just get these beautiful, beautiful Russ Manning images, clean lines, clear storytelling, beautifully colored. It's just really great. The story takes you through, the various different places and monsters and peoples of the land that time forgot. And I just love the way Manning renders people. It's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Now we can probably haggle over his dinosaur anatomy, but it is the 1970s, so dinosaurs were drawn a bit differently than they are now. But for the most part, this is just an absolutely gorgeous artistic treat that is just a joy to behold. It involves a lady whose parents came from this land. It's called Kosbach. But she doesn't know anything else about it, and she wants to go there and find out, what her parents' people were like, where she comes from. And she doesn't know anything about it, so Tarzan tags along, and when they get there, of course something goes wrong. They get stranded, and then they find out it is a prehistoric world with all kinds of prehistoric creatures and dinosaurs in it. If this sounds very familiar to you, yes, this is very similar to the setup of the current Land That Time Forgot comics from American mythology, and that's because the setup works. It's a really good story, and American mythology is telling really good stories with their comics, as did Russ Manning with this one, and they're both different and both worth reading. But one thing I will say for this particular story, this is the one case I would say, if you have not read the novels, Land That Time Forgot is a Burroughs novel. Read this before you read the novels, because if you read the novels, you're going to know who her parents were and who her people were. If you don't, then there is a really nice reveal that is really cool at the end of this that might surprise you. But if if you know what the Land That Time Forgot, all that story, then you're just going to be like, yeah, I knew that. So now, the ending does bring you a very complete and satisfying ending for this particular tale, but it does indicate that Tarzan does stick around in the Land That Time Forgot, and he does indeed. And there is one more adventure called The Pool of Time, and I don't know where this was published at individually, but you can find the story in this trade paperback from Dark Horse that reprints the comic I just showed you, that original Tarzan in the Land That Time Forgot, and it will also reprint The Pool of Time, which is really cool. It is a different tale that has the Wiru in it, which are these, freaky looking winged men that are the kind of top species in the Land That Time Forgot. And it's just a really, really cool story. There is a supernatural or cosmic element at the end that I was a little surprised at, but it's still dealt with very well. And Russ Manning is just a real master at channeling Burroughs. I don't think I've ever seen anyone quite channel Burroughs the way that Russ Manning could. I mean, most of his stuff feels like I'm reading an adaptation of a Burroughs novel. And that's a very, very high compliment. Not saying that the other stuff out there isn't good. Russ Manning is part of a tremendous, tremendous legacy of Burroughs comics that stretches 100 years. back to comic strips, to comic books, to the stuff American mythology is doing right now. But it is really, really cool to kind of see, Manning's little piece of that legacy. And just to kind of give you my personal story about how I found this. So I got this issue of Tarzan. It was just, a random issue I saw on sale. And I read it, and it was just really great. And, the story perfectly captured Burroughs. And, I was like, wow, and, I checked to make sure it wasn't an adaptation of a novel, And then I kept looking at the art, and I was like, wow, I don't know who drew this, but it looks just like Russ Manning. And then I looked it up, and I was like, it is Russ Manning. And I discovered Russ Manning had this entire legacy with Tarzan. He was one of the Tarzan creators in comics. And I never knew that because Russ Manning is actually one of my favorite comic creators. So it's kind of crazy that I somehow had missed this connection to one of my favorite characters. Where I knew Russ Manning was from Magnus Robot Fighter. This is a character he created in the 60s who was basically a Tarzan of the future. He was an orphan raised by a robot to fight rogue robots who had strength beyond that of mortal men, and used his wits and his fists to fight evil robots. And Manning's visuals and storytelling are just gorgeous and still hold up to this day, as does the story. When other writers were putting out stuff that was just really below the audience. It was, kids reading at the time, but most of the writing at the time was just not that good. Manning was doing these really solidly written, well thought out action stories that were epic and still absolutely hold up to this day. And talking about his art and his writing was very influential. But if you want to see his strongest legacy, probably it would be in Steve Rude, who very much takes a lot of inspiration from Russ Manning and even got to do a story where Nexus, which is a character he co-created, great series by itself, got to actually meet Magnus Robot Fighter. And if you just want to see something really, really fantastic, I highly recommend these 2 issues with these 2 characters meet, drawn by Steve Rude. If you're looking to explore Russ Manning's Tarzan legacy, DC Comics did do a lot of reprints of Russ Manning's comics, but it's kind of, here and there sort of reprints. Oftentimes backups in the giant-sized issues of the various Tarzan titles. If you want something comprehensive, I would probably go for trade paperbacks and hardcovers. I haven't gotten anything beyond this, but it looks like it's a pretty comprehensive reprinting of Russ Manning's works, so I'm definitely probably going to be digging into those because it is very, very good stuff. And, Manning even got to adapt some Tarzan novels, including Tarzan of the Apes, so definitely looking forward to, hunting that down at some point. And if you're looking for more Land That Time Forgot stories, Edgar Rice Burroughs' website has a subscription service. It's $22 a year for comic strips, and they have a wonderful adaptation of the Edgar Rice Burroughs novels going on there. And for news stories that take place in the Land That Time Forgot, there are the American Mythology comics. Currently, we've got 2 series out right now, 2 mini-series. The next issue of Zorro in the Land That Time Forgot, which is quite good, comes out next week. And then the next issue of The Land That Time Forgot, Fearless, which follows up on the original novel, is scheduled to come out the week after that. So really looking forward to both of those. They are both wonderful comics with great art and great story. It is a pretty good time to be a Burroughs fan, even if we do have an absence of Tarzan from the shelf at local comic shops, but there's still a lot of other stuff out there, and there's a lot of other stuff that you can find online on Amazon and eBay and in back issue bins. So like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, Someone needs to put up a sign on Caspec telling people, like, hey, there are dinosaurs here. Because no one ever knows that until they crash land in it, and then it's just too late and you got to run from the T-Rex. See ya.